Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here today to talk about something that can truly change the course of your life: financial literacy. Now, I know that managing money might not sound like the most exciting thing when you're young, but trust me, it's one of the most important skills you can learn. And here's why: the decisions you make with your money today will shape your tomorrow. Whether you've just started earning an allowance, you're working a part time job, or you're saving for something special, understanding how to manage your money wisely will help you build a strong foundation for the future. We're talking about developing habits now that will not only help you avoid common financial pitfalls, but also give you the freedom to achieve your goals, whether that's buying your first car, paying for college, or even saving up for your dream home someday. This session is all about empowering you with the knowledge and tools to take control of your financial life. It's not about restrictions or making things complicated. It's about learning how to make smart choices that will give you the freedom to do what you want with your money. So, why does this matter for teens? Well, the truth is, financial literacy is often overlooked in school, but it's something we all need. Whether we realize it or not, money touches every part of our lives. It affects what opportunities we can pursue, how we handle challenges, and the kind of lifestyle we can maintain. The sooner you start building good financial habits, the more prepared you'll be to face those challenges head on. In today's session, we're going to dive into some core concepts that are essential for managing your money, like budgeting, saving, and even investing. By the end of this, you'll have a clearer idea of how to make your money work for you rather than the other way around. But more importantly, I hope you'll walk away feeling confident about your financial future, knowing that you've got the tools to handle whatever comes your way. Let's get started. Now, let's talk about why financial literacy is so important, especially for you as teens who are just starting to earn, spend, and save money. This isn't just about numbers or balancing a checkbook. This is about learning to manage a resource that impacts every single part of your life. Here's the thing: whether we realize it or not, money plays a huge role in the decisions we make every day. It influences what opportunities are open to us and what risks we can afford to take. Maybe you're saving up for a car, planning for college, or just wanting to make sure you have enough to hang out with friends on the weekend. The decisions you make with your money, even right now, can have lasting effects. And trust me, when you understand how to manage your money well, it gives you a sense of control and independence that nothing else quite does. Let me ask you this: how many of you have ever gotten a little bit of money and felt like it just disappeared the next time you checked? It's easy to do, right? You buy a snack here, a new game there, and suddenly you're wondering where it all went. And that's exactly why we're here. Financial literacy gives you the power to understand where your money is going and how to make it work for you, not just vanish without a trace. But it's more than just about saving a few extra bucks. It's about building habits that will serve you for the rest of your life. The way you handle money now will lay the groundwork for how you handle bigger financial responsibilities later. Think about it. Whether you're planning to go to college, start a career, or even open your own business someday, money management is going to be a crucial skill. If you can master it now while you're young, you'll be in a much better position to make smart choices down the line. Let's put this into perspective with a real world example. Picture someone fresh out of high school who hasn't learned the basics of budgeting or saving. They get their first paycheck from a job, and before they know it, it's gone. They didn't plan for things like rent, utilities, or even emergencies. So, what happens? They end up using credit cards or borrowing money to cover those things, and suddenly they're in debt, and it can spiral out of control pretty fast. Now, imagine if that same person had learned how to create a simple budget or understood the importance of setting aside money for emergencies. Their life could look very different, with less stress and more options. And the truth is, it's never too early to start learning these skills. The earlier you begin, the more time you have to develop good habits, and good habits are powerful. Think of it like building muscle. It doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, it becomes second nature. Before you know it, you're stronger and more capable than you ever thought you could be. But financial literacy isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about seizing opportunities. The world we live in moves fast, and there's a ton of opportunity out there for those who know how to make the most of their money. Imagine being able to invest in a new business idea because you've saved wisely, or having the freedom to take a gap year and travel because you've planned for it. Financial literacy opens doors that you might not even realize are there. You see, money doesn't just give you stuff, it gives you choices. When you understand how to manage your money, you're not as limited by circumstances. You get to decide what to do with it rather than letting your financial situation decide for you. That's real freedom, and it's something that can impact your personal life, your career, and even your relationships. Whether it's deciding when to buy a car, how to handle college loans, or whether to take that dream job in a different city, knowing how to manage money well can make those decisions a lot easier. And let's be honest, we live in a world where it's easy to get overwhelmed by debt, student loans, credit card debt. It's everywhere. But understanding these things now, before you're really in the thick of it, can help you avoid those traps. By making smart choices early on, you're setting yourself up for financial independence rather than a life of paying off debts. I want you to think about this. Every day, you're making decisions that involve money, even if it's in small ways. Maybe it's choosing between saving up for something big or spending on a smaller immediate purchase. Maybe it's deciding whether to go out with friends or put that money towards something you've been saving for. These decisions might seem small, but they add up. And the better you get at making them now, the more successful you'll be down the road. So, why is this important? Because financial literacy is a life skill that never stops being relevant. Whether you're 16 or 60, the ability to manage money will always impact the way you live, the choices you make, and the opportunities available to you. By learning how to budget, save, and invest now, you're not just learning how to manage your money, you're learning how to manage your life. You're giving yourself the power to take control of your future, and that's what makes this topic so important. Let's keep moving forward and explore what you can expect to learn today. We've got a lot of great information coming your way, and trust me, it's going to change the way you think about money. Now that we've talked about why financial literacy is so important, let's get into what you can expect to learn today. By the time we wrap up, you're going to walk away with some powerful tools that you can start using right away to take control of your financial life. Here's the big goal for today: to help you understand how to manage your money better, whether you're just starting out or you've already got some experience with earning and spending. This isn't about turning you into a financial expert overnight, but it's about giving you the confidence to make smart choices with your money now and in the future. So, what are the specific things we'll cover? First, you're going to learn how to create a simple budget that works for you. I know the word budget can sound a bit intimidating, but it's actually pretty straightforward. By the end of this session, you'll know how to track your income, understand your expenses, and make sure you're not overspending. And don't worry, we'll break it down step by step so you can customize it to your life. Next, we'll dive into the importance of saving. You'll learn how to save money without feeling like you're constantly sacrificing. I'll show you a method that makes saving easy and automatic so you can build a safety net for emergencies or work toward bigger goals, like buying something you've been dreaming about or preparing for future expenses like college. We'll also talk about spending wisely. You'll gain a better understanding of how to make smart decisions about where your money goes. This isn't about never spending, it's about spending on the things that matter most to you while making sure you're not falling into the trap of impulse buying or overspending on things you don't really need. And finally, we'll touch on investing. Yes, it's true. Even as a teen, you can start thinking about how to grow your money through investing. It might seem complicated now, but I promise, by the end of today, you'll have a clear understanding of how it works and why it's something you should start considering, even if it's just planning for the future. So, those are the key takeaways: budgeting, saving, spending wisely, and investing. Each of these skills builds on the other, and together, they'll help you develop the habits you need for lifelong financial health. Whether you're thinking about short term goals like saving for a new phone or long term goals like financial independence, these are the foundational skills you'll need to make it happen. By the end of this session, you'll have a clear action plan for managing your money better. More importantly, you'll feel empowered to make smart decisions that will set you up for success, not just today, but for years to come. Let's get started. All right, let's dive into the core concepts of today's session. We've talked about the importance of financial literacy and outlined the objectives. So now it's time to break down the key ideas that will help you become more financially empowered. Concept one, budgeting. The first concept we're going to talk about is budgeting. Now, when you hear the word budget, it might sound like something complicated or even restrictive. But at its core, a budget is simply a plan for how you're going to use your money. It's a tool that helps you control where your money goes instead of wondering where it went. Think of a budget like a map. If you're trying to get somewhere without directions, you're likely to get lost, right? But with a map, you have a clear path to follow. That's what a budget does for your finances. It gives you a clear path so you can see how much money you have coming in, how much is going out, and where you need to make adjustments to stay on track. Why is budgeting so important? Because it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today. Without a budget, it's easy to overspend or find yourself scrambling at the end of the month with no money left. But with a budget, you can make sure that your money is working for you, not the other way around. Now, let's make this a little more practical. Imagine you get $100 a month from a part time job or allowance. Without a budget, it's easy for that money to slip through your fingers. Maybe you spend $20 on fast food, $30 on a new video game, and suddenly you're wondering where the rest of it went. But with a budget, you could plan to spend $20 on fun things, save $30 for future goals, and still have money left for necessities. The beauty of a budget is that it's flexible. It's not about restricting yourself, it's about making sure your money is going where you want it to go. And the best part is, the sooner you start budgeting, the easier it becomes. Over time, it'll become second nature. A great example of this is the 50-30-20 rule. It's a simple way to divide your money into three categories: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. Let's say you're working part time and earning $500 a month. Using this rule, you'd budget $250 for needs, like transportation or school supplies, $150 for wants, like going out with friends, and $100 for savings. It's a flexible guide that you can adjust to fit your own life, but it gives you a structure to start with. Concept two, saving. The second concept we need to talk about is saving. Saving is all about setting aside money for future use, and it's one of the most important financial habits you can develop. Why? Because savings give you freedom: freedom to deal with unexpected expenses, freedom to make bigger purchases without going into debt, and freedom to reach your long term goals. Here's the thing: life is unpredictable. Your phone might break, your bike might need repairs, or an opportunity might come up that you want to take advantage of. Without savings, these moments can cause stress or force you to borrow money, but with a savings cushion, you're prepared for whatever life throws at you. One of the easiest ways to save is by using the principle of paying yourself first. This means that before you spend any money on other things, you set aside a portion for savings. It could be as little as 10% of your income, or more if you're able. The key is to do it consistently. Over time, those small amounts will add up. And before you know it, you'll have a solid savings fund. Let's look at a real world example. Say you're saving up for a new laptop that costs $1,000. If you're able to set aside $50 a month, you'll have enough in 20 months. That might sound like a long time, but the important thing is that you're making steady progress toward your goal. And in the meantime, you're building a habit that will help you for the rest of your life. Saving isn't just for big purchases, though. It's also important to build an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a small pot of money that you set aside for unexpected expenses. Financial experts often recommend saving enough to cover 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, but as a teen, Even a few $100s can make a huge difference. This way, if something unexpected happens, like needing to replace a broken phone or cover an unplanned trip, you won't have to borrow money or dip into your regular spending. Concept three, spending wisely. Now let's talk about spending wisely. Spending is a part of life, and it's important to remember that spending money isn't bad. In fact, part of financial literacy is learning how to enjoy your money without letting it control you. That said, the key to spending wisely is understanding the difference between needs and wants and making sure your spending aligns with your goals. Needs are things that are essential, things you can't live without, like food, transportation, school supplies, or basic clothing. Wants, on the other hand, are things that are nice to have but aren't necessary. Things like eating out, buying new gadgets, or going to the movies. Both are important, but the challenge is making sure you're prioritizing your needs before your wants. One common mistake people make is falling into the trap of impulse buying. You know the feeling. You're out with friends, you see something cool, and before you know it, you've bought it without even thinking about it. Impulse purchases might seem harmless in the moment, but they can quickly add up and throw your budget off track. The trick to avoiding this is giving yourself time to think before making a purchase. Try the 24-hour rule. If you see something you want to buy, wait 24 hours before making the decision. Often, you'll find that the initial excitement fades and you might not want it as much as you thought. Another tip for spending wisely is to always ask yourself, does this purchase align with my goals? If you're saving for a bigger purchase or working toward a long term goal, it's easier to say no to smaller, unnecessary expenses. For example, if your goal is to save up for a new gaming console, it's easier to resist the temptation to buy smaller games or accessories that might delay reaching that bigger goal. One of the best ways to manage your spending is by tracking it. If you're not sure where your money is going, try writing down every purchase you make for a week or a month. This can be an eye opening experience. You might be surprised to see how much you're spending on things like snacks, drinks, or small impulse buys. Once you know where your money is going, you can make adjustments to make sure it's being spent on things that truly matter to you. Concept four, investing. Lastly, let's talk about investing. I know investing might seem like something that's way down the road, something adults do when they're older. But the truth is, it's never too early to start thinking about investing. In fact, the earlier you start, the better. Investing is all about making your money grow over time. When you invest, you're essentially putting your money to work for you so it can increase in value. This is different from saving, where you're setting money aside but not necessarily growing it. With investing, you're looking to grow your wealth by earning returns on your money. Now, you've probably heard of the stock market. That's one way to invest, but it's not the only way. There are lots of ways to invest, whether it's in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or even starting your own business. The key is to understand the basics and start small. The power of investing comes from something called compound interest. It's a simple concept, but incredibly powerful. Compound interest is when you earn interest on not just your initial investment, but also on the interest you've already earned. Over time, this creates a snowball effect where your money grows faster and faster. The earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to grow, and the bigger that snowball can get. To give you a practical example, let's say you invest $100 in a simple investment account and it grows by 5% each year. In the first year, you'll earn $5, bringing your total to $105. In the second year, you'll earn 5% on that $105, not just the original $100. This might seem small at first, but over 10, 20, or 30 years, that compound interest can turn a small investment into a substantial amount of money. While investing can seem intimidating at first, it's all about starting small and learning as you go. You don't need to be an expert to begin. Even setting aside a small amount each month can set you on the path to financial independence in the future. Now that we've covered these core concepts, budgeting, saving, spending wisely, and investing, you're well on your way to building a solid foundation for your financial future. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical tools you can start using today to take control of your money and make it work for you. Let's move on to some practical strategies to put these concepts into action. Now that we've explored the core concepts budgeting, saving, spending wisely, and investing let's shift gears and dive into some practical tips and strategies that will help you put these ideas into action. The goal here is to make these concepts a part of your everyday life so you can master your money and avoid common pitfalls along the way. 1. Start simple with your budget. The first thing you can do is create a simple budget, and the good news is it doesn't have to be complicated. Start by writing down two things: how much money you have coming in, like an allowance, part time job earnings, or gifts, and how much is going out, like money spent on food, entertainment, or saving for something special. A great way to manage this is by using the 50-30-20 rule, which we touched on earlier. To recap, allocate 50% of your money to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. You can adjust these percentages based on your own situation, but this provides a solid framework to start with. And don't worry if your budget doesn't balance perfectly the first time. It's all about trial and error. You'll learn more about your spending habits as you track your money. Pro tip: try using apps like Mint or YNAB. You need a budget to track your spending automatically. These tools help you visualize where your money is going and make it easier to stick to your budget. 2. Pay yourself first. When it comes to saving, one of the best strategies is to pay yourself first. This means that whenever you get any money, the first thing you do is set aside a portion for savings before you spend a single penny. Treat it like it's a bill you have to pay every month, except instead of going to someone else, it's going straight to your future. If you're wondering how much to save, try starting with 10-20% of whatever you earn. For example, if you get $100, set aside $10 or $20 for savings right away. The beauty of this approach is that you don't even have to think about it. Once the money is saved, you can spend the rest guilt free, knowing you've already taken care of your future self. Pro tip: if you have a bank account, set up an automatic transfer that moves money into your savings account every time you get paid. This way, you won't even have to remember to do it. 3. Build an emergency fund. As we talked about earlier, it's important to start building an emergency fund, even as a teen. An emergency fund is simply a small amount of money that you set aside for unexpected expenses. Life is full of surprises, and an emergency fund gives you a safety net when things don't go as planned. The key here is to make sure you don't dip into your emergency fund for non emergencies. For example, buying new clothes or going to a concert doesn't count as an emergency. Save that money for true emergencies, like repairing your phone, paying for an unexpected medical bill, or covering a last minute trip. Even starting with just $100 can make a big difference when an emergency pops up. Pro tip: keep your emergency fund in a separate savings account so you're not tempted to spend it on everyday purchases. 4. Avoid impulse spending. Spending wisely is all about making thoughtful decisions with your money. One of the biggest enemies of smart spending is impulse buying. Buying something in the moment just because it caught your eye. We've all been there, right? You're out with friends, you see something cool, and before you know it, you've bought it without really thinking it through. A great strategy to avoid this is the 24-hour rule. If you see something you want to buy, give yourself 24 hours to think about it before making the purchase. More often than not, the excitement will fade, and you'll realize that you didn't really need it after all. This simple trick can save you a lot of money over time, especially when it comes to small impulse purchases that add up. Pro tip: set a spending limit for impulse buys. For example, decide that anything over $20 requires at least 24 hours of thought before purchasing. 5. Set clear financial goals. To stay motivated with your finances, it helps to have clear goals in mind. Whether it's saving for a new phone, a gaming console, or a long term goal like college, having something to aim for makes budgeting and saving feel purposeful. When setting goals, try to be specific. Instead of just saying, I want to save money, set a goal like, I want to save $500 in the next 6 months for a new laptop. This gives you a target to work toward and makes it easier to track your progress. Once you've hit your goal, you'll feel a real sense of accomplishment and you'll be more motivated to keep going. Pro tip: break down big goals into smaller, more manageable chunks. If your goal is to save $500, aim to save $100 every month. Smaller milestones make big goals feel less overwhelming. 6. Start learning about investing. While saving is important, learning how to invest your money can be a game changer for your financial future. You don't have to wait until you're older to start thinking about investing. In fact, the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow. Investing is all about letting your money work for you. Whether you're putting money into stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, the goal is to grow your wealth over time. And thanks to the magic of compound interest, even small amounts invested today can turn into much larger sums in the future. If investing seems intimidating, don't worry. You don't have to dive in all at once. Start by learning the basics. There are plenty of resources online, including beginner friendly apps like Robinhood or Acorns, that can help you get started with just a few dollars. Pro tip: before you start investing, make sure you've built a solid savings foundation first. Investing carries risks, and you don't want to put money at risk that you might need for emergencies. Common mistakes to avoid. Now, let's quickly touch on a few common mistakes to avoid as you start implementing these strategies. The first mistake is not tracking your spending. It's easy to lose track of where your money goes if you're not paying attention. Make it a habit to check your budget regularly and adjust it as needed. Another common mistake is relying on credit too early. Credit cards can be a useful tool, but they can also lead to debt if you're not careful. If you do use a credit card, make sure to pay it off in full each month to avoid interest charges. Lastly, don't make the mistake of thinking that small amounts of money don't matter. Every dollar you save or invest adds up over time. Whether it's $5 or $500, what matters is that you're building good habits that will serve you for years to come. By following these best practices, creating a budget, paying yourself first, building an emergency fund, avoiding impulse buys, setting clear goals, and learning about investing, you're setting yourself up for financial success. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making small, consistent efforts that will pay off in the long run. Let's move on to some interactive activities to help solidify these strategies. Great. Now that we've covered the key concepts and strategies, it's time to get hands on. We're going to do a few exercises together that will help you see how these financial lessons fit into your daily life. It's one thing to talk about budgeting, saving, and investing, but when you start applying these ideas, that's when the real learning happens. So grab a notebook or your phone and let's jump in. Exercise 1: creating your first budget. Let's start with something simple but incredibly powerful: creating your first budget. Now, don't worry if you've never done this before. We're going to walk through it step by step. Imagine you have $200 coming in every month from an allowance or a part time job. Start by thinking about how much of that money you typically spend. Take a moment to reflect. Maybe you spend it on snacks, going out with friends, or small purchases like clothes or games. Think about your regular expenses and write them down. Now that you have a rough idea, let's use the 50-30-20 rule. This will help you decide how to allocate your money. 50% of your income should go toward needs. This could be things like transportation, school supplies, or even setting aside a bit for savings. 30% is for wants, the fun stuff like eating out or buying something you've been wanting. And finally, 20% should go into savings. What are you saving for? Maybe it's a bigger goal like a trip, a new phone, or just building up an emergency fund. Take a few minutes to organize your $200 into these categories. How does it look? Is it balanced? Don't worry if it's not perfect. This is your first step toward taking control of your finances. You're starting to see where your money is going and how you might want to adjust your spending. Exercise 2: setting a savings goal. Now that we've worked on your budget, let's take a closer look at saving. We've talked about how important it is to save. So let's make it real by setting a specific savings goal. Think of something you really want, something that excites you. Maybe it's a new phone, a pair of shoes, or something longer term like saving for college or a car. Write down what that goal is and how much it costs. Now, based on your budget, figure out how much you can save each month. For example, if your goal is to save $500 for a new phone and you can put away $50 each month, that means it'll take you 10 months to reach your goal. How does that feel? Can you speed it up by saving a little more? Or does it feel right to take it slow and steady? This exercise helps you see that savings isn't about sacrificing everything fun. It's about balancing your spending and saving in a way that gets you what you want while still having room for enjoyment. Exercise 3, practicing the 24-hour rule. All right, next up, let's talk about spending wisely and avoiding those impulse buys. We all know how tempting it can be to see something you want and buy it on the spot. But one of the best tricks to avoid unnecessary spending is using the 24-hour rule. Think back to the last time you made an impulse purchase. Maybe it was something small like a snack or a gadget, or something bigger, like a piece of clothing. Now imagine if you had waited 24 hours before buying it. Do you think you would have still made the purchase, or would you have changed your mind? Here's what I want you to try. Next time you see something you really want to buy, stop and give yourself 24 hours to think about it. After that time, ask yourself, do you still want it just as much? Does it fit into your budget and your financial goals? Sometimes the excitement fades and you realize it's not something you really need. Waiting gives you time to make a more thoughtful decision, and it can save you from spending money on things you don't really need or want. Exercise 4, simulated investment. Finally, let's talk about investing, but in a way that's fun and easy to understand. We're going to simulate what it might look like to start investing a small amount of money and see how it can grow over time. Imagine you have $100 that you decide to invest. Let's say you put it into a simple investment that grows at 5% a year. In the first year, that $100 grows to $105. In the second year, you earn 5% on that $105. So now you have 110 25s. Each year, you're earning a little more, not just on your initial investment, but also on the money you've already earned. This is called compound interest, and it's how small investments can turn into something much bigger over time. Let's take it further. Over 10 years, that $100 will grow to about $162. It doesn't seem huge at first, but that's just the beginning. If you keep investing a little each month, that compound interest will work its magic and your money will grow faster than you might expect. This exercise shows that even small amounts of money, when invested, can grow into something significant over time. And the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow. Group reflection and discussion. Now that you've gone through these exercises, let's take a moment to reflect. Think about the budgeting exercise. Did anything surprise you about where your money goes? How does setting a savings goal make you feel about managing your finances? And what do you think about the 24-hour rule? Could you see yourself using it in real life? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you find challenging about saving or sticking to a budget? Have you ever set a financial goal before? And how did it go? These are the kinds of discussions that help us understand money on a deeper level. By doing these activities, you've started to put the concepts we've talked about into action. You're not just thinking about money management anymore, you're actually doing it. And that's the key to mastering financial literacy. Keep practicing these strategies, and you'll find that managing your money becomes easier and more natural over time. Let's move forward and look at how you can apply these concepts in your real life. Now that we've done some exercises to get a feel for budgeting, saving, and investing, let's talk about how these concepts show up in the real world. It's one thing to practice these strategies in theory, but seeing how they play out in everyday life will help you understand why they matter so much. Real life scenario, the first job. Let's start with something most of you will experience. if you haven't already, getting your first job. Imagine this: you land a part time job at a local cafe, and suddenly you're earning your own money for the first time. It's an exciting moment because now you have the freedom to spend on things you want: clothes, gadgets, going out with friends. But it's also where financial literacy really comes into play. Without a budget, that paycheck can disappear fast. You might not even realize where it's gone. But if you apply the budgeting skills we talked about, like the 50/30/20 rule, you can avoid that. Maybe you decide to spend 30% on fun stuff, save 20% for something big like a vacation, and use the rest for things you need, like transportation or food. Suddenly, you're not just spending without thinking. You're managing your money in a way that helps you enjoy it while also preparing for the future. I've seen this play out with people I know who started earning money but didn't learn how to manage it early on. They'd get paid, spend most of it right away, and then be surprised when they didn't have enough for something important. But the ones who had a plan, a simple budget, they were able to make their money last longer, save for bigger goals, and stress less about whether they could afford things. Industry example: managing college expenses. Another real world example of financial literacy in action is when it comes to college. Whether you're planning to attend a local community college or a major university, the costs add up quickly. Tuition, books, housing, food, it can be overwhelming. This is where saving and budgeting ahead of time really help. Take, for instance, the cost of textbooks. Let's say you've saved a few $100s over time by setting aside a small portion of your allowance or part time job earnings. When the semester starts and you need to buy expensive textbooks, you've already prepared. You won't have to rely on using a credit card or borrowing money. Instead, you can pay up front, knowing that you've been disciplined enough to save. I know students who, because they didn't budget or save, had to rely heavily on student loans, or worse, they had to get into credit card debt just to cover basic expenses. On the other hand, those who learned to manage their money early avoided that trap, and they left college with fewer financial burdens. Being prepared with savings gave them the freedom to focus on their studies and life after graduation, rather than stressing about how they were going to make ends meet. Personal example: the importance of an emergency fund. I'll share a personal example from someone I know who learned the value of an emergency fund the hard way. This friend had been doing well financially, working a steady job, managing to save a little here and there, but they hadn't set aside money specifically for emergencies. One day, their car broke down, it needed major repairs, and suddenly they were faced with a $1,000 bill they weren't expecting. Because they didn't have an emergency fund, they had to put the repair on a credit card. The problem with that? They didn't have the money to pay the card off right away, so the balance sat there, accruing interest month after month. What started as a $1,000 expense eventually ballooned to over $1,200 because of interest charges. It was a stressful situation that could have been avoided with a simple emergency fund. Now, imagine if they had saved just $50 a month over the course of 2 years. They would have had $1,200 set aside, enough to cover that car repair without relying on credit and without the extra interest charges. That's the power of being financially prepared. It saves you from having to scramble in moments of crisis, and it can save you a lot of money in the long run. Industry example: investing early. Let's talk about the power of investing and how it can change your financial future. In the investment world, there's a saying: it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. That simply means the earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to grow. Take someone who starts investing $100 a month at age 18. If they invest consistently and their money grows at an average rate of 6% per year, by the time they're 40, they could have close to $80,000. Now, if someone else waits until they're 30 to start investing that same $100 a month, they'll only have about $32,000 by the time they're 40. That's a huge difference. And it's all because the first person gave their money more time to grow. This is why financial experts stress the importance of starting early. Whether it's saving for retirement or simply growing your wealth, the earlier you start investing, the more potential your money has to grow. You don't need a lot of money to get started either. Apps like Acorns or Robinhood let you invest small amounts, and over time, those small amounts can really add up. The benefits of financial literacy. So, what are the benefits of applying all of these concepts in real life? It's about more than just having money in the bank. It's about having freedom, security, and choices. When you manage your money well, you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You're not stressed about unexpected expenses, and you're not drowning in debt. Instead, you're in control. You're able to save for the things that matter to you, invest for your future, and live your life with a little more peace of mind. Whether it's handling your first job, preparing for college, or building an emergency fund, these are the real life situations where financial literacy makes all the difference. And the best part? The habits you develop now will serve you for the rest of your life. When you start applying these concepts, budgeting, saving, spending wisely, and investing, you're setting yourself up for financial success. You're giving yourself the tools to build a life where you're in control of your finances, not the other way around. Now, let's be honest. Managing money isn't always easy. There are challenges, especially when you're just starting out. It's important to recognize the common obstacles that might come up so you can plan for them and stay on track. Let's talk about a few of those challenges and how you can overcome them. Challenge one: sticking to a budget. One of the most common challenges is sticking to a budget. It's easy to make a budget on paper, but it's harder to follow it in real life. Unexpected expenses come up, or you might find yourself tempted to spend more than you planned, especially if friends are going out or there's something you really want. Solution: the key to sticking to a budget is to make it realistic and flexible. Your budget should reflect how you actually live, not just how you think you should live. If you find yourself constantly overspending in one area, like eating out, it's time to adjust. Maybe you can budget a little more for that category while cutting back somewhere else. Remember, your budget isn't set in stone. It's a guide that you can tweak to fit your changing needs. And if you do go over budget one month, don't beat yourself up. Just make adjustments for the next month and get back on track. Challenge two: impulse spending. Another big obstacle is impulse spending. We've all been there. You see something in the store or online, and suddenly you're buying it without thinking twice. Those small, unplanned purchases can really add up and throw your budget out of whack. Solution: one of the best strategies for managing impulse spending is the 24-hour rule. Before making any non essential purchase, wait 24 hours. This gives you time to think about whether you really need it or if it's just an impulse. Often, you'll find that the urge to buy fades and you'll save yourself some money. Another tip is to limit your exposure to things that tempt you. For example, if you find yourself making a lot of impulse buys online, try removing your saved payment information from your favorite shopping apps. That extra step of having to enter your payment info can help you think twice before making the purchase. Challenge three: saving consistently. Saving can also be tricky, especially when you don't have a lot of extra money. It's tempting to think, I'll start saving when I earn more, but the truth is, if you wait for the perfect time, you might never start. Solution: the best way to ensure you're saving consistently is to automate it. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account every time you get paid, even if it's just a small amount. This way, the money is saved before you even have a chance to spend it. You can start small, say $10 or $20 per paycheck, and gradually increase the amount as you get more comfortable. The key is to make saving a habit no matter how much you're earning. Challenge four: peer pressure and social spending. Another challenge, especially for teens, is peer pressure and social spending. It's hard to stick to a budget when your friends are constantly going out or buying the latest gadgets. You don't want to feel left out, and that can lead to spending more than you can really afford. Solution: It's important to be honest with yourself and your friends about your financial goals. You don't have to spend money to have fun. Suggest alternative activities that don't cost much or anything at all, like a movie night at home or a picnic in the park. You'll find that real friends will respect your decision to be smart with your money. And if there's something big coming up, like a concert or a trip, plan ahead. Save for it in advance so you can enjoy it without breaking your budget. Challenge 5: lack of financial knowledge. Sometimes the challenge is just not knowing where to start. Maybe the idea of budgeting or investing feels overwhelming, or you're not sure what tools to use. Solution: the best way to overcome this is by continuing to learn. Financial literacy isn't something you master overnight, it's a journey. There are tons of resources out there, from books and podcasts to apps that can help you manage your money. Start small and build your knowledge over time. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes along the way. That's how you learn. By recognizing these challenges early and knowing how to address them, you'll be better prepared to manage your finances successfully. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about building good habits and staying committed to your financial goals, even when things get tough. With these solutions, you'll be able to navigate those bumps in the road and keep moving forward toward financial freedom. As we wrap up today's session, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed. We've covered some crucial concepts that will serve as the foundation for your financial future: budgeting, saving, spending wisely, and even investing. These aren't just abstract ideas, they are practical tools that you can start using today to manage your money smarter. One of the most important points we touched on is that budgeting is your blueprint. It's not about restricting yourself from spending, but rather giving yourself a plan so you know exactly where your money is going. Having a budget helps you control your finances instead of letting them control you. Whether it's balancing what you need with what you want or making room for savings, a budget gives you clarity and direction. We also talked about saving and how it gives you both freedom and security. The habit of paying yourself first, setting aside a portion of your income as soon as you get it, can transform your financial future. Whether it's for something immediate, like a big purchase, or for the longer term, such as building an emergency fund, saving consistently is key. Then there's spending wisely. Remember, this isn't about never spending, it's about making thoughtful, intentional choices. Using simple tools like the 24-hour rule, where you pause before making a purchase, gives you the space to consider whether it really aligns with your goals. That small moment of reflection can make a huge difference in keeping your budget on track. Finally, we touched on investing. Even though it might seem far off, starting to invest early, even with small amounts, can significantly impact your financial future. The power of compound interest is real, and the sooner you begin, the more time your money has to grow. Think of investing as planting seeds that will grow into something much larger over time. So, what should you focus on next? Start by creating your first budget. Take some time to sit down and map out your income and expenses. Think about your savings goal, whether it's a short term goal, like saving for something fun, or a long term goal, like preparing for college. And when it comes to spending, practice the 24-hour rule the next time you're tempted to buy something on impulse. These simple steps will set you on the path to taking control of your finances. For those of you who want to dig deeper, there are plenty of resources available. Apps like Mint or YNAB can help you stay on top of your budget, while Acorns is a great way to dip your toes into investing. And if you want to dive into more learning, books like I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi or podcasts like The Dave Ramsey Show can offer even more guidance and insight. Remember, financial literacy is a journey. You're not going to master it all at once, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep learning, stay curious, and stay committed to taking control of your financial future. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I hope you leave feeling empowered with a clearer sense of how to handle your money and make it work for you. Your financial journey starts today, and I'm excited to see where it takes you. As we come to the end of today's session, I want to take a moment to acknowledge how important this journey toward financial literacy truly is. Learning how to manage your money isn't just a skill, it's a form of empowerment. The decisions you make today will shape your financial future. And by being here, you've already taken an important step toward mastering those decisions. I know that sometimes dealing with money can feel overwhelming, especially when you're just starting out. But don't worry, what you've learned today will help you take control of your financial life one step at a time. Whether it's creating your first budget, learning to save consistently, or even dipping your toes into investing, you're building a foundation that will support you for years to come. It's important to remember that financial literacy isn't about being perfect. You don't have to get everything right all at once. What matters most is that you keep moving forward, learning from your mistakes, and making smarter choices as you go. Every small step you take, whether it's saving a little more each month or making a thoughtful spending decision, brings you closer to financial independence and security. I want to thank each of you for being so engaged and open to learning today. Your participation, your willingness to ask questions, and your curiosity about managing money better are what make this topic so impactful. Before we officially close, I'd love to open the floor for any final questions. If there's anything you're still unsure about or any concept you want to explore a little deeper, now's the time to ask. I'm here to help clarify anything that might still be on your mind. Again, thank you all for your time and focus today. It's been an absolute pleasure walking through these concepts with you, and I hope you leave here feeling more confident and empowered about managing your money. You've got the tools. Now it's time to put them into action. Now that we've covered everything, let's open the floor for any questions you might have. This is your chance to ask anything that's still unclear, or if there's something specific you want to dive a little deeper into. Maybe you're wondering about the best way to stick to your budget, or perhaps you'd like more clarity on how to start investing, even with a small amount of money. Whatever it is, feel free to ask. I know we've covered a lot today, from budgeting and saving to avoiding impulse spending and thinking about long term investing. If any of these topics are still swirling in your head, don't hesitate to bring them up. Sometimes it's in these final moments of discussion that things really start to click. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad or basic question. Financial literacy is a journey, and we're all learning as we go. Maybe you have a specific scenario in mind, like how to handle unexpected expenses while sticking to a savings goal, or you're curious about which apps are the most effective for tracking spending. Let's talk through it together. I'm here to help clarify anything you're still unsure about, and I'd love to hear what's on your mind. So, who's got the first question? Let's make sure we leave no stone unturned before we wrap things up today.